What's going on, guys? Brandon here at Comic-Con, and I'm here at the DC booth with the one and only Scott Snyder. So you write Batman, Swamp Thing, American Vampire, if you aren't familiar, but I'm going to start off with some Batman questions, of course. Sure. Just ended the Court of Owls, and the next storyline we're leading into is the death of the family.
True.
What can you tell us about that?
I can tell you that it's going to be the Joker completely unleashed and unhinged. The story really is sort of my love letter to the Joker, who's my favorite villain, not just in comics, but in the universe, like in everything. And what I love about him is this kind of notion that essentially he's kind of a mirror to Batman, where he feels as though he is his court jester. He's sort of, Batman is the king of Gotham, and he's historically kind of what the court jester has been, which is he delivers this terrible news to the king and makes him stronger for it. And the way he does that is by creating these horrifying nightmares for Batman to survive. And so that psychology is at the heart of this storyline, and it allows me to bring the most twisted, craziest Joker without his face, you know, to the table, to Gotham, in a way where he's been planning everything he's going to do in this storyline for a year. So he could have been watching all these characters for a year. He's going to come after Nightwing, he's going to come after Batgirl, he's going to come after Robin, he's going to come after Tim, he's going to come after everyone.
So we're going to have the whole Bat family involved in this. This isn't just a Batman.
No, but it will be the way. I just want to make 1,000% clear, what happens in Batman stays in Batman. It's like Cancun or whatever, where like you read Batman, you do not have to read other books ever to know what's happening in Batman. I would never try and write a story where you have to read Batman to understand Nightwing, you have to read Batman to understand Batgirl. I love what those writers do, and I have too much respect for them to try and interrupt their storylines. That said, Joker will appear in those books. He will be in Batgirl, in Nightwing, in Batman and Robin.
Kind of like the Court of Owls did.
Like the Court of Owls, except this time around, what I loved about the Court of Owls, the Night of Owls, was that it was all about Gotham history. This one is personal. This is the Joker coming for you, being like, I don't like this Bat family. And he's sort of like, you know, Batgirl, you might think that you faced me, you know, in Killing Joke, but you didn't. I was coming after your father and trying to drive him crazy. Not that he knows who she is, but I just mean in general, if I was Joker sort of talking about his psychology. It's almost like Joker has not faced Barbara. He was going after Jim, and so he just decided to shoot her in the back and paralyze her and take naked pictures of her. So he's sort of like, if now I'm looking you in the eye, I'm Joker, and I'm coming after you, what are you going to do about it? To Nightwing, they've never faced a nightmare like this. But Batman is also facing him in Batman in a way that's completely terrifying. So it really is something I've been working on since the moment I got on Batman in my head. And I just can't wait for it. I'm so excited. I really am.
We are too. Was it intimidating writing the Joker at all? I mean, like you mentioned, the Killing Joke and all these other Joker stories. Was it intimidating at all jumping in with the character like that?
Yes. It is always intimidating. It is always scary and paralyzingly terrifying when you get on these characters that you grew up with. My son is 5, and his favorite villain is the Joker, and it's just all he wants to be in Batman Legos is the Joker all the time, and it's just impossible not. If you don't feel that way, then you shouldn't be writing them, honestly. And for me, you have to sort of feel that way and then put on these kind of horse blinders and be like, I'm writing fan fiction and no one's reading it, and it's just for me, and it's how I'd write the Joker if no one was paying any attention whatsoever. And then you come to a fan like this and it completely destroys your delusion that you've created
like,
for yourself,
we're gonna put
your
this out for
world.
people to read.
But for real, the idea with this is that you have to embrace it and be like, I love the Joker, and the Joker, he really is my favorite villain, and the reasons that he's my favorite villain are what are at the fore in this series. So there'll be a lot of blood on the floor. It's going to be very gruesome. It's not for the faint of heart, but it's also...
These are all awesome things you're saying right now.
There'll be a lot... The other day I was like talking to Jeff Lemire, and I'm like, is it too much to lop that off? And he was like, yes, it is. So I was, all right, fine, whatever. Yeah. Fine, Jeff. But at the end of the day, it really is about who the Joker is to Batman in a way that is my Killing Joke. It's my, you know, Arkham Asylum by Grant Morrison. I mean, it's my, that's what it is for me. It's my chance to use this. You have to approach it like you're terrified because you love the character, but you're also like elated because you get to use the character. You're like, I get to write the Joker. If you don't, you get to sit down and be like, Joker, colon, and he's like, well, Commissioner,
Like,
you're just
I
like,
made him say that.
yeah. And so if you don't, it's thrilling and terrifying at the same time.
Now in Court of Owls,
Long answer.
no, hey, I'm fine with it, man. In Court of Owls, you really built up Gotham to be its own character, kind of. I mean, you really gave it its own voice and feeling and tone. Are we going to see that anymore? Like, are you still going to use Gotham as a character, or is this going to be more back to?
It'll always be a character in the way that I feel as though Gotham is the primal villain generator for Batman. That essentially Gotham is his mirror. And what Gotham does is anyone that tries to be a hero in Gotham City gets a villain or multiple villains that are extensions of their own worst fears about themselves. And in that way, it's this incredible rogue-generating territory.
Yeah.
And it's scary. You're kind of like, why would anyone live there? I don't know. But at the same time, you're sort of like, if you survive those villains and those trials by fire, you're one of the greatest, if not the greatest hero of all time. So Gotham will always be part of the DNA of what I do, but in the Joker story, it really is Joker versus Batman, hardcore. Just like
back
5
to
issues.
back to the basics of.
Yeah, but 5 oversized issues, and the Joker's in the backups too, and then the finale in 17. It's actually a third. It's long. It's like an annual sized issue. It's out of control. Joker everywhere, doing things that I'm sort of. I feel bad that I put on the page, but they're there, and he's doing them. So what are you going to do?
Yeah, we're definitely excited for that.
Deal with it. Joker's coming.
Awesome. One book I would like to talk to you about is American Vampire,
Sure.
the other book you do.
Yeah.
With that, you just started Blacklist, right?
That's right.
As you called it, your big summer blockbuster with that.
Right.
Now, being that you're writing about vampires and creatures that can't die and everything, you've written through a couple eras now. Is there any one era that you've enjoyed writing, or one you're really looking forward to?
That's a great question. I mean, for me, the 50s has been one of the most interesting. I've loved it.
You're a big Elvis fan, correct?
Yeah, I have Elvis tattoos, actually, here.
Awesome.
I'll show them on camera if you want.
All right.
That's all right. No one wants to see my ugly shoulders.
Well,
anyway.
use your imagination.
Yes. I actually have young Elvis here and mature Elvis over here. It's good.
That's awesome,
For real.
man.
Off camera, you will see. But anyway, the 50s has been a tremendous amount of fun, but I think the most fun thing about the series is that at first I was like excited to do different eras, but what I realized was now I'm just excited to pick up with the characters. And so it's more where it's going to be most interesting for them rather than what decade is most interesting like in terms of its iconography or its historical context. It's more like, where is Pearl going to be in 1960? Where is Skinner going to be? Where is Felicia going to be? Where is Hobbs going to be? So that's become the compass of the series in a way that's been a lot of fun to sort of adapt to. Because at first, when I pitched the series, it was more like, we'll get to follow this bloodline through all these different decades and explore the historical issues we want to. And instead, it's really become very much about these central characters that mean a lot to all of us. So we do have an end in mind, but it's pretty far away.
Well, that's good to hear, because I'm loving that book.
Thanks, man.
Now, each decade you write, or era you write, is this like a research-heavy book? Do you really put a lot of research into everything, or?
I do. I mean, I feel like it becomes procrastination pretty quick, so you have to be able to be
I
like,
gotta write the 70s, I better.
yeah, and you're
there.
watching all these 70s like videos and stuff. It's like discotheque. Yeah, I mean, like, you have to be able to sort of realize. For me, like, 'cause when I was doing fiction, I did historical fiction as well, and you have to sort of draw a line for yourself where you feel in your gut that you're like, now you're just procrastinating. You're looking up like, well, what if I look up one more thing about what people would wear for tennis in 1950? And you're just like, you don't really need that. You know what I mean? You don't need that tennis shorts, tennis sweater. And in that way, I try and do as little research as possible. I mean, the end of the day is, I would love to be called out by somebody. Like, for example, I remember doing something where it was like we were in the 30s, and I was writing about the electrical system in Las Vegas. And Mark, our editor, was sort of like, that might not be true. And I was like, you know what? I've researched it to the best of my ability. If someone comes forward and they're like, I lived in Las Vegas in 1939, and that's not true, I would be like, you get American Vampire free for life.
Here you go.
Like, I love you. You're great. Like, contest it. You're great. So, I don't know. So it's a lot of fun. I am a big history buff myself, and I enjoy it tremendously. And Raphael's actually staying with me here.
Oh, awesome.
So we're just like all about AV.
Sitting in your room just thinking about stuff.
It is an AV fest in our room.
Well, we finish up all our Nerdlocker interviews here with 3 questions.
Okay.
First one would be your favorite movie.
Of all time?
Yeah.
Jesus. Of all
Didn't mean
time.
to throw you off there.
I would have to say my favorite movie. Let me think. My favorite movie. I have some like different points in my life, but the first movie I would have to say honestly probably the favorite movie of all time is probably my dad took me to see Raiders of the Lost Ark before I was ready, and he covered my eyes at the end. And like I didn't get to see the faces melting and stuff, but I was so like completely enamored of the world of Indiana Jones and the way that is incredibly sincere, and yet at the same time plays in that exaggerated, almost comic book kind of world that it really sort of had an impact on me. So I'd have to say probably Raiders of the Lost Ark. The funniest thing is my dad took me to Raiders of the Lost Ark and it was too scary. So then he took me to like Star Wars instead at the same, and I was just like, Obi-Wan gets killed, and I was like
what am I watching right now?
I remember vividly being, Dad,
why did you do this?
Yeah, I love you, Dad. You're awesome.
The other one would be favorite comic book character, but I feel like we know that.
Yeah.
So,
Crazy Quilt.
Yeah. Oh,
no,
perfect.
It's Batman, obviously.
And your favorite video game?
My favorite video game, it's hard because I've been playing Arkham City. I just finished like the Harley Quinn download. So I have to say, I would have to say Arkham City is probably my favorite game, but my son and I, we play Batman Legos, and I'm going to totally expose myself as a horrible dad or evil dad, geek dad. But he got this disc, I don't know if you guys, this disc of Sega Genesis games from the 90s. Mm-hmm. And so he loved Sonic, but on the disc as well as like Shinobi and all these games that I used to play when I was a kid. Yeah. And he loves eSWAT. Do you remember this game, eSWAT?
Yes.
Where it's like you're a cop and you get to like level 3 and then you turn into RoboCop. It's awesome. No, so I would have to say, for Jack, I love you, you're 5, eSWAT is probably my favorite game.
All right, well, thank you very much for your time.
Pleasure. No, thank you, Nerdlocker. You guys have been great from the moment I started writing comics. I really appreciate it. I'm Scott Snyder. You're watching Nerdlocker, a place for your inner nerd.